and my screen. So, but with the things I thought we
Oh,
would.
it says I need access.
Oh, you don't have access. Let me change that.
Oh, but you're screen sharing.
Change it anyway. Not anyway. Try it now if you want to do it yourself. Also, but the two things I thought we would do. Number one, right? It's the bracha on Dam Betulim that is said that comes from the at least the earliest reference to it we have is the halachot gedolot. So I wanted to and Rav Nachum mentioned in Shir that he actually
found it in.
Yeah, I found it. So actually it wasn't so hard. Somebody referenced that it was in Hilchot Kedubot, and I just kind of looked around a little bit. And
where do you have the text from? Is it on?
It's on Bar Ilan.
I don't have Bar Ilan, but okay, cool.
Yeah, it's on Bar Ilan. Happy to share my access.
I like that. I like downloaded the PDF from Hebrew Books and like started scrolling through it. I gave up.
Yeah, so I found it. No, I will say, we're gonna look at, one of the questions was, does it have Shem Hashem? Just because the edition on Bar Ilan has Shem Hashem, which we're gonna see with the bracha, doesn't mean that the original version of Halachot Gedolah did or not. I don't have access to manuscripts of it. We could look, right? There's all sorts of great access to Hebrew manuscripts online. But so take it away. Let's look at the Sefer Halachot Gedolah. So.
אוקיי. וכדמפיק לסודרה מחייב לברוכה. אייקה כיסה
Kasa.
Wait, so when what is Sudra?
Oh, it's the sheet.
Oh, okay. So when he like shows the sheet, he's required to make a bracha. Kasa ve'asa mevarech ilui hu borei pri hagafen ve'atzei b'samim. והדר ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם אשר צג אגוז בגן עדן שושנת העמקים בל ימשול זר במעיין חתום על כן איילת אהבים שמרה בטהרה חוק לא הפרה ברוך הבוחר בזרעו של אברהם. Okay, so what is kasa v'asa?
Is it a kos and then myrtle, hadas. Hadas is the one that smells, right? Yeah. And
okay, so I see. So if right, if he has a cup and something to smell, then he makes the borei pri hagafen and let's say samim, and then he says the bracha that we discussed in class. Yeah, I don't know. Should I translate it or?
No, it's good. I actually had a question. Maybe you didn't come up in class. The word sag, is that like yatsag, like he stood up or erected a tree?
I
wasn't sure the root.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'm not sure either. That makes sense.
So I was looking around. I was like, the only thing I can think of is it's like because I don't think there is a root tzadi vav gimel or tzadi yud gimel in Hebrew that I know of. And I was looking around for it. I couldn't find one. So I was thinking that it was yatsag, like to stand up or to erect.
Apparently the root is tzadi. I'm just looking at the dictionary.
Oh, is there tzadi vav gimel?
Tzag is saying Nitzav amad re'u tzog tzadi vav gimel.
Okay, so the definition was what I'm saying it was, which is yatsag. Yatsag is also yud tzadi gimel is in biblical Hebrew at least is to stand up or to erect. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's a weird bracha. It's like a weird custom that it's because as we saw, like the Ramas talked about actually doing it on a kos, if I remember correctly, which was in Rav Nachum's comment that seems like the timing seems weird, right? You've just had sex for the first time, and what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to throw your Rav Nachum put it so you put your yarmulke on, you get dressed, and you say a bracha. Like what are you? That's just weird. So here it seems to be he takes out the sheet, which it's weird also because Chazal seems to think you actually don't take out the sheet, and that's just a metaphor. But here I guess they did, which may also show that this is very much a folk operation. That's like what people are doing. And I do think actually that there are places where Chazal, I'm not trying to say they're better or defend them, but who like they don't like some of the practices around some of these virginity practices, and they but they kind of can't fight the customs that are out there in some ways. So, but anyway, that's I don't know if you saw, I sent around both whole some approaches that post-game have on when the science of Chazal is wrong, because clearly they have some the science of hymens and virginity is not so correct in Chazal, but also the parallel bracha that isn't in the Gemara that we all say is Hanoten le'ev koach. Yeah, and which, by the way, the Shulchan Aruch says not to say. He's explicit, but the Ramah says we do, and one of the ideas is that it comes from the Gaonim, and it actually has midrashic origins though in it as well, and this may as also, you can see this, the whole bracha here is a midrash in some ways, so it's okay, that's all I have to say about that. That's I don't know if you had any final thoughts. Okay.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah,
no, it's up to you. Do you have final thoughts or
no?
No. Okay. All right. I wanted to look now at the Aruch HaShulchan on the Siman. We maybe won't do the whole thing, but we'll do some of him. He's got some also a little bit shocking and I think interesting.
Actually, if we're moving on that much, could you clarify for me what when people talk about Shem Malchut, when they talk about not making a bracha with Shem Malchut, like is that yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the way I learned it, but I'm actually a little bit, because I'll say the way I learned it, and then there was a comment that made me rethink all this, is the way we say when, God forbid, someone dies, we say Baruch Dayan Emet, right? We don't say Hashem, right? Shem Hashem, and we also don't say Elokeinu Melech Haolam, right? But we saw, I can't remember, it was either the Chokat Mechokek or I think it was the Chokat Mechokek, or it might have been the Beit Shmuel, who in another place when we were talking about whether or not you say Shem Malchut in a bracha, said you don't say Shem, but you do say Malchut. Now I don't know if that meant that you say Baruch Elokeinu, but maybe actually the name Melech Haolam, or you say Baruch Melech Haolam. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it written out, but and that makes me rethink how we all. But the custom has been everyone says Baruch Dayan Emet, right? No one says Baruch Melech Haolam Dayan Emet.
For that one in particular is what he says.
Yeah, there is a place right at a death where funerals where you actually do say it with Shem Malchut, but most of the time we say it without. Like when just somebody puts on to be very puts on social media, so died, everyone responds, Bet Dalet Hey or BDE or
right.
It's and you're supposed to, right? Baruch Dayan is also supposed to be like, if you read the Mishnah in the 9th parak of Brachot, it sounds like you're supposed to say Baruch with Shem Malchut. Anytime something bad happens, you're actually supposed to say it out.
Right. That's why I wasn't sure. I thought that was like a social media thing, or I didn't know that there was an actual like halachic. What I'm confused by, so there is like a halachic category of things that you are davka supposed to say, but do not have, but are just Baruch, whatever their ending is without.
Yeah, some people don't like it. I've seen post-game who are just like, that's incorrect, right? You either say the bracha or don't say the bracha. Don't play this game. And there are other places where it's like a whole question: is there a bracha here? I'll give you another example. The Shulchan Aruch makes compromises in two places. One is the Modim de Rabbanan, right? The way it's usually said is Baruch El Hodot, right? That's how we say it out. Most people. The Yerushalmi has Baruch Atah Hashem Kel Hodot is the way that they have it. It has it there, and the Gra says, you should say it with a bracha with shame, right? That's a bracha, and none of this compromising stuff. And the other case is the closing of the bracha of Borei Nefashot, right? The traditional way it's phrased is Baruch Chei HaOlamim, but some people like the Gra say you should say no, Baruch Atah Hashem Chei HaOlamim. So it's a bracha. It's everyone agrees you open the bracha with Baruch Atah Hashem, right? That's not, but it's a question of, is that a long bracha or not? Essentially, you should close it, and that's again, it's a debate. I think it's a case where the Chatima doesn't exist in the Bavli, but it is in the Yerushalmi, is in both of those cases. And so, so that's the way that, I don't know if it was the Shulchan Aruch himself or somebody earlier who made the compromise of, like, you say it without shame. So there are actual cases of this. Sorry, you got me on the topic, but another example, Rav Yoel bin Nun suggests, he's very troubled by the fact that since bread is no longer like a necessity at the average daily meal, that people, as he says, ochlim kefar u'mevarchim keparpar. And so he suggests, one of the things he suggests is the possibility of saying Birkat Hamazon without shame or malchut, or without shame at least, after every meal. And it's he gives three suggestions actually. One is that you eat bread with every meal. One is that you say without, or one that you actually just say all of Birkat Hamazon with shame u'malchut, even if you don't eat bread. Is his other suggestion.
And also people say like Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'chol to end Shabbat, right? Without Shem Malchut.
Yes, if I remember correctly, that's in the Magen Avraham. Maybe it's earlier too, but he talks about women who aren't davening Mariv should say that before they do Malacha after Shabbat is over, that they should just say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'chol. And I've seen places where this is, example, when I was interning at Yale Hillel, the way that they would finish Sudah Shishit, Shabbat was over, but they hadn't davened yet. The way they would clear the table was everyone would say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'chol, and then everyone would throw their plates away, and then we'd go daven Mariv. It was so a lot to say about that, but not for this time. Whether or not that was good halacha. Okay. Should we look at the Aruch HaShulchan?
Sure.
All right, I guess I'll start because you read that last one. So, all right, I'm just a little warning on this one. He's a little bit harsh here. So, habetula behigias man chatunata tachin et atzma letaharat beilat mitzvah. Okay, ve'avia yazhira shetashkiach kol yamea al pidchei nidota v'jezehu ha'avera hayoter gedola im lo tishmor pidchei nida v'sheyesh bazeh isur karet im tezalzel bazeh ותאבד עולמה, עולם הזה ועולם הבא, כשלא תשמור כראוי, ותפגום זרה עד עולם, וקרובה היא לעונש בידי שמיים. כי ניתנן על 3 עבירות נשים מיתות בשעת לידתן, על שאינן זהירות בנידה וכולי. Right? So, it's she gets time to get married. She needs to be very careful about doing the bilat mitzvah to prepare herself for it. But her father, it's really weird that it's her father. Her father needs to warn her about the seriousness of nida and to guard her nida for all. And I think it's like for all of her life, because it's one of the worst things she can do is to have Be'ila as a nida. So why he puts this here is like really fascinating. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's like partially my guess is she's about to have sex for the first time, and and it's not like you got married and there's no limits to the sex all of a sudden. And I think the second part of it is because it's actually a very difficult thing. It's like, she's about to have sex for the first time, and essentially they're going to have sex and separate, and the way this actually works out, right? Because we now see dam betulim as dam nida, or at least we treat it almost like dam nida, not quite, but there's a few differences, but we treat it almost that way. What effectively happens is, right, if she, if they time the wedding so that she has just finished nida, her shiva nikim have finished when she gets married, and then she has sex on the first night, and then she and her husband separate from each other. She acts as nida, and then she actually is in nida. They separate for at least 5 days plus shiva nikim, right? At that point, so that's 12, maybe 13 days even, because there might be a 1 day of a stop in there, right? And then she's probably nida again by the time that's all done. And so essentially you effectively have a month where a couple has had sex once and not again. And so it's I think this is kind of him playing off of that. That's my guess. So
what is the why, what is pitchei nida?
Yeah, I don't know. The other way I was taking this is that this is not just nida, but not having sex before you're married. Also, I think is what he also may mean here, of the opening of nida, of like being very careful, like nothing goes in there unless you are married and in the state of tahara, kind of.
Right.
So I'm not 100% sure. So that's all right. Ukashatiza herbaze karaui, schara gadol meod, ve'ashrecha kabazeh. Ubeva I think it's Abba Ve'ima. I'm not sure. O Krovotea Yalamdula Ofnea Bedikot, Vehis Hirot Kiraui, Bedikoteha, Uvatarata, Vesheb Beime Nidota, Tarchiket Asmami Bala, Litenlo Davar Miada Leado, or Miado Leada, Vesheloto. Tochel imo bekara achat kechodim hamuvarim beyordea, etc. Right, and the family members need to teach her, but I think I think it's when it comes. I think maybe when she becomes nida, her mother and her relatives should teach her about all the rules of nida, and to do the bidikot during the nekiim very carefully, and properly, and that she, like, you can't even pass kalim from the husband to the wife during nida. You have to put it down and then she picks it up, or vice versa, and they can't eat from the same plate, and so forth and so on. Right? These are things that are like, a typical couple being intimate will do. They'll pass things to each other. They'll eat from the same plate and so forth. Okay, just like, I don't know, I found it really fascinating. He put this here, out of all places.
Yeah.
So, which is what actually inspired me last night when I was thinking about what to do. Like, this is why I want to do the Aruch HaShulchan. So, because it's not in the Shulchan Aruch here.
Right.
So, okay. This also, Sif Bet also kind of fascinated me a little bit. So, because it's not in the Shulchan Aruch.
Right. 8 ימים קודם חופתה, אפילו עומדת בימי טהרתה, ואפילו לא הגיע עדיין עידן הווסט, שלא ראתה עדיין דם מעולם, תעשה בדיקה לעת ערב במוח נקי, להכניס לאותו מקום, ותבדוק בחורין ובסדקין, ויותר טוב שתניח שמה המוח כל בין השמשות, ובתחילת הלילה תתלנו משם, ואם הוא נקי מדם, תתחיל לספור 7 נקיים, ותבדוק את עצמה בכל יום ויום 2 פעמים. ולכל הפחות תעשה בדיקה אחת ב7 הימים, ב7 הימים האלה, כמו שכתוב שם סימן קצ"ו, ותלך לטבילה קודם החופה, וקודם טבילתה תבדוק את עצמה, ואם מצאה את עצמה נקייה מדמים, תטבול ותברך על הטבילה, ואחר כך תכנוס לחופה ולבעילת מצווה. וביום שתפסוק בטהרה, תלבש לבנים, היינו חלוק נקי כדת הנשים הקשרות, זרעו של אברהם אבינו, ושאבותיה עמדו על הר סיני ופסקה זוהמתן.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You don't necessarily need to translate. You could summarize. It's up to you, but
It's talking about the, like, in anticipate, checking yourself in anticipation of the wedding.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because she needs to be no longer in a state of nida, and in order to do that, right, even if she's never seen nida, she needs to prove that she had shiva nikiim before the wedding, and then did tefillah. And of course, right, what we're afraid of is that she'll be pirsan nida, so she needs to essentially, like, it's like mikveh chuppah, right, one after the other, very close to each other, and then so yeah. Which is, I was thinking about it. It's kind of, in some ways, at that rate, then 7 + 1, really, say 8 days before the chuppah, she is starting to act like a married woman in that sense, even before she's ever had any intimacy with her husband.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was wearing white, and she's wearing white in order to notice if there's blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
after the wedding.
Yeah, that's where the white comes from. It's it might even be before, right? Because it's during the Shiva Nikim, it was very traditional. Women would wear white just to see if there was anything. So Yeah.
Right. And what was I going to ask about? Oh, how when the Aruch HaShulchan was written, how common was child marriage a thing
I don't know. He might just be taking this from
from somewhere else?
yeah, somewhere else. It's it's very hard. I mean, I know people do work in this field of like how old were people when they were getting married and so forth. But I think the idea that people were not getting married till they were like 18 or 20 or older is a fairly modern. I mean, the Aruch Shulchan is fairly modern, but I think it's really modern that people aren't getting married
Yeah,
till.
I'm just talking about like post puberty, like
Yeah, because
right, because even if she hasn't.
Lo Igia Dain Edan Haveset. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's but so although you could also, I don't know if this is fully true, but I think that it is, people are hitting puberty earlier in our world than they were hitting it in their world. If I understand.
Right.
I
I've
don't
heard
think
that.
anyone really knows why. There's different hypotheses out there. But so you could also imagine, I don't know, I have to imagine were 15-year-old girls who were getting married who had not had a period yet, potentially.
Okay.
So, so it's not, and she might already have, had some other signs of puberty, but it's just not, for whatever reason,
Right.
has never seen blood. And also, but, the Veset also, that, he says Shalora Tadain Dam Melam. So it can't just be that
Yeah.
irregular. It's that she's never actually seen it. So yeah.
Right.
But but I do remember there is a debate between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai in the 10th parak of Nida about the whole thing about like, do some of these laws even apply if there's somebody who's never had a period? So okay. So how are we doing on time? Oh, we got a little bit. Okay. So we'll do Sif Hey, Habo Elata Betula Beilat Mitzvah, Kevan Shigamar Biato, Poresh Miyad, Afilu Hiktana, Shelo Igi Zmana Lirot Velo Rata Adain Dam Me'olam, Ve'afilu Bogeret Shechalu Betulea, Dechashinan Shemini Terev Dam Nida Ketzat Bedam Betulim, Ve'afal Gav De'afilu Beisha Gemura, Keshematza Dam Beshat Tashmish, Im Yesh La Makah Tola B'Makah, Makata, Kmo Shekatav Katuv Be'Yoredea, so forth. Very אין לך מכה גדולה מזו, מכל מקום, כיוון דביעה זו, לכל נמסרה, יש להחמיר, ועוד, sorry, go ahead, יבני.
No.
דזה שתולים במכה, הוא כדי שלא לאוסרה על בעלה לעולם, אבל ממש תצטרך לטהר, לא חשינן. ואפילו בדקה ולא מצא אדם טמאה, שמא ראתה טיפת דם כחרדל וחיפהו שכבת זרע, שהרי בהכרח להיות אדם מפני הבדלים. probably ועל כורחה, או שהזרע כיסה הדם, ולכן זהו דווקא עם בעל בעילה גמורה. All right. So, okay, I'll stop there, right? So this is the law. Essentially, we treat her like she's nida. The moment that they have sex, they have to separate. But even though, right, we have this whole thing that says that she's not, it's not nida, this is a makah. We can rely on this as being a makah, and there, we can rely in many cases of being a makah. And there's no greater makah than this, hymenal bleeding that's going on here. Nonetheless, that leniency of sorts is only in the case of, right, if a woman bleeds, it creates a chazakah that she bleeds every time she and her husband have sex, they have to get divorced and she should marry somebody else. It's where that she doesn't have that. And that this doesn't count as one of the 3 times, but it does count for nida. And we have a fear that even if she didn't see the blood, that the semen is going to mask the blood. And therefore, this is a concern in nida cases as well, not just in the case of betulim. Okay. But that's only when they actually have Beila Gemura, right? Which I think is going to seem to mean full penetration of some sort, whatever full penetration means itself, right? That's like a weird term. But
I mean, if the issue is the semen, shouldn't that be for this purpose the definition of being like if there's semen?
That's a great question. I think maybe you're right. Yeah, I was contrasting what's coming next, but you're right, because the if there's no semen, then there's no worry about being so there's no ejaculation, there's no worry about masking the blood necessarily. So Aval im rak ha'ara ba, right? If it's only, so there, right, we talked about different definitions of ha'ara. If it's either just, the penis and maybe, touching the outer lips, or maybe it is like some slight amount of penetration, the penetration of the corona, whatever it may be, all those possibilities. Ufiresh velometza adam yesh mekilim. So then we're making. So maybe you're right. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's if there's not
no, because that latter part does make it sound like it's talking about how much penetration as opposed to whether or not there's
semen
injected.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So it's a little weird that there should be some intermediate step there, potentially, but that's okay. Or maybe this is proof that ha'ara can sometimes mean, actually, we saw this also, like a definition of it that could mean, complete penetration, whatever that means, but doesn't, but no ejaculation, kind of thing. So maybe that's it too. Ve'ota beila gomer kedarko b'li chashash. All right, v'chein rashad lifrosh mimena afilu be'ever chai. Afagav d'matzat dam ba'et habia asur lifrosh be'ever chai. Tziato hana'alo keviato. Right, v'serich le'amtina she'amuta ever. Kmo shekatav kusham siman, etc. Right, de'afaporish be'ever chai chayav karet. All right, so this is another difference between this and nida, even though we treat it like nida, right? You don't, the penis, normally if a man and woman are having sex and she has a hard gasha that she's in nida, he has to wait until he loses his erection, so that he's not pulling out with an erect penis, and therefore it's still like an active sex anymore. Here, you don't have to worry about that. But which may be, also a little bit better in terms of, I don't know, some emotional connection in the first time couple, I imagine, of not having to do that, but maybe, I don't know. Okay, so we're not going to do that. Right? He throws it in there. It's like, at the end of the day, this is not actually nida. This is, we know it's makah, and so that at least in a couple ways we're willing to be lenient. So and I'm just looking at the time. Oh yeah, we can do it. Yeah. Yeah, let's read. Should we do Vav? I'm trying to think. So I'm just do a little. Let's actually start. Let's go to Sif Yud, and then we'll go back. So if that's okay.
כתב בעל הלכות גדולות, ריש הלכות כתובות, שלאחר ביאה ראשונה, כשמצא בתולים, יש לו לברך, וזה לשונו. ואחד המפיק לי, לסודרה מחייב לבורכי, אי קסה ועשה, מברך עלוי, בורא פרי הגפן ועצי בשמים, והדר ברוך אתה השם, אלוקינו מלך העולם, אשר צג אגוז בגן עדן, שושנת עמקים, בל ימשול זר במעיין חתום, על כן עילת האבים שמרה בטהרה, וחוק לא הפרה, ברוך הבוחר בזרעו של אברהם. עד כאן לשונו. והמשילה לאגוז, כמו שבאגוז האוכל מכוסה עד זמן שבירתו, כמו כן בנות ישראל בתוליהן מסוגרות עדי נישואיה, ושושנת העמקים, מפני שישראל נמשל לשושנה ומרמז על הדמים ששומרות, על הדמים ששומרות, את עצמן, על הדמים ששומרות את עצמן בעת נילתן, מלהזדקק לבעליהן. מרמז על הדמים? Why does this שושנה מרמז על הדמים? אוקיי. כמו שכתב, סוגה בשושנים.
שערי, I think.
ושערי הדברים מובנים, וחותם בזרעו של אברהם, האב הראשון שבגודל אהבתו להשם שמר התורה כולה, עד שלא ניתנה, ובייחוד בענייני טומאת נידה, כמפורסם בהגדה על פסוק
לושי ועשי עוגות.
לושי ועשי עוגות.
Do you know this midrash?
No, I don't.
So right, it's if you notice carefully in Parshat Vayera, when Sarah, Abraham is getting everyone running around preparing stuff for these malachim who show up.
Right.
Mr. Lushiv Ugot, but she never
Yeah.
shows the ugot to
Ah.
malachim. And so, what does the Midrash Rashi brings this also? He says, what happened? They came to announce that Sarah was going to give birth, and she, who had already hit menopause, she's Pirsanida at this point, has her.
That's clever.
Yeah, and so therefore it's tameh. She can't serve these malachim tameh bread, right? And so she never serves it. So,
or if according to the Midrash that she never had a womb at all, then right.
Oh, even
then
more.
like now all of a sudden she has one, so she's feels sunny down. That's the
yeah. So amazing. That's yeah. So he's playing with this a little bit. And here he says Abraham, but it's Sarah who is machmira about hilchot nida long before the Torah was ever given. So
yeah. ויש אומרים שאין לברך ברכה זו שאין לברך ברכה זו שלא נמצאת בגמרא, ויש אומרים לברכה בלא שם ומלכות, וגם בלא כוס, ואין נזרין העידנא בברכה זו, ובזמן הקדמון היה המנהג לעשות סעודה. That's sort of ambiguous. אין נזרין העידנא?
I don't know what he means. I think he means they don't do it. That's my guess.
Yeah, presumably.
Yeah.
ובזמן הקדמון היה המנהג לעשות סעודה מדגים לאחר בעילת מצווה, כדי שיפרו וירבו כדגים, ולכן נקראת בעילת מצווה דמשם, ואילך ראויה להתעבר, דאין אישה מתעברת מביאה ראשונה, ועכשיו לא נהגו בסעודה זו, ויש מקומות שמחלקים גבינה.
Great. Yeah. Cheese also has some interesting history of being associated with women and but those are interesting things that they don't do anymore, but these customs that they had, not only maybe not doing the bracha anymore, but actually a suda that was done after this, which is different from the wedding suda, but this one has fish served and
cheese.
Yeah, that's that maybe not people who follow the Beit Yosef, which might be a ta'ut that you can't eat fish and cheese together, but that's
it didn't like it was fish or cheese, not fish and cheese.
I think you're right. I think it was fish or cheese, but I was having some fun with it. So that's and also there's this idea in the Gemara, whether or not scientifically correct, but that a woman can't get pregnant from the first act of sex. And therefore, once they've done the first one, that essentially makes it available for reproduction or something like that. That's okay.
Yes, it's not true, presumably, but
I don't believe it's true. And I believe that actually there are poskim who deal with this whole question, because I think they know that it's possible to. Yeah. So
I guess unless he's by definition Polish without ejaculating, that could help make it.
Yeah, that could. That's I want to name that sometimes actually that can be very that idea can be turned very problematically into a woman was raped and she got pregnant, she must have also been licentious and had sex before, and really kind of troubling statements that get made. Or she's raped, if she were a virgin she wouldn't get pregnant from it, so there's no need to worry about what happens next. And so I hope I'm going to name those things as the problematic things they are, and I think that's important. So, especially since we are an organization called Yashrut and we believe in Yashrut in the world, so that's okay. This I actually found this kind of interesting. See if Yud Aleph ein mevrachin shechianu al nisui isha. ונראה לי הטעם דשהחיינו לא שייך בזה רק בברכת הטוב מיטיב, כיוון שהבטחה לשניהם, כמו בילדה אשתו זכר, דברך הטוב מיטיב, כמו שכתוב באור החיים, סימן, etc. All right. והיא ברכה להשם שהיטיב להם, והרי ברכה זו יש כמוה בברכת הנישואין, אשר יצרת אדם וכולי. והיא קין לנו בניין הדייד וכולי. שזהו ברכה להשם, בעדו ועדה, וכן ברכת שמח תשמח, ואם כן הטוב מיטיב יתרה היא. All right. So he says, why don't we say Shechianu? So Shechianu is typically only done if it's communal versus personal, right? Did I get that right? I think in Hatov Metiv is the personal. It only applies to the two of them.
Oh, really? Wait, Shechianu is, but like new clothes. How is that communal?
Yeah, I think maybe I have it backwards. Maybe I have it backwards. Whatever reason, maybe it's because it's two of them, and maybe the whole community. Then Hatov Metiv is.
Oh,
yeah. I always get wrong which one's which, and I always have to look it up again. So but I think we do say Shechianu on Chag, right? So it's
right. That's a communal thing.
So maybe it's for our own simcha. Tzarich Iyun, I need to go back to the Shulchan Aruch and take a look at what it says. It's the Gemara. The Gemara itself says it, and I actually wrote a drash on it once, so shame on me for not remembering it. But
it's because you've written so many drashot.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, because I think I always balk at the idea that like these like universities like the Hillels will start out the new year and say Shechianu, and I think it really should say maybe Hatov Metiv, but I'm not sure. Why did I decide that was what I should say when I had my first COVID vaccine as well? I think because I thought it was also communal at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that was my who knows? I didn't sleep a lot last night. That's my excuse. But
Hard to hear.
But his argument is though, but the Sheva brachot actually cover the Hatov Metiv in some ways, and therefore we don't need to say it. So we don't say Shechianu, we don't say Hatov Metiv. Okay. But ve'im kan Hatov Metiv yatirahi ve'od yesh lomar b'tam zeh deha bevirchat erusin in levrach Shechianu de'im bazeh gemar simcha, right? And so why don't we say it at Kiddushin? Well, because we haven't finished the simcha. And Ushat Nisuin and Levarech Dekvar Hichil Me'erusin, right? And Nisuin we don't say it because we already started the process. It's like he's playing a little bit here, but it's Vilachena Filu Keshe Erusim Nusin Kechad. He says, wait a second, but now that we do it together, why we say Shechianu or Kechad Ein Levarcha. Because they could have been split, you shouldn't say it. So therefore they didn't establish Shechianu at the wedding. I actually do think there is something powerful here of the sense of like the wedding in some ways is almost too good for Shechianu and Tov Metiv. It's got its own set of brachot that are special.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I don't know. That is how we do it on time. That's this is where we should stop. So okay.
Right.
Thank you for sitting for helping me out with this not so easy topic.
Thank you. Likewise.
But have a great Shabbos, Yavni. And
do you have a moment for a question on off the
stuff?